In previous editions, I've talked about how conflict is very costly to organizations, yet many managers and organizational leaders don't think there's any benefit in resolving conflict. We looked at how the cost of conflict will certainly justify some form of resolution. What I want to talk about today are the skills required to resolve conflict. None of us was born with the ability to resolve conflict. We tend to respond to conflict by one of two ways. We either run from it or we engage in the negative aspects of conflict, which really just make it worse. So the first thing we have to do is to learn to counter those natural tendencies. And I equate learning to do that with how we learn to drive on ice. You may recall from driver's ed or from whoever taught you to drive that you were told to tap on the brake if you started sliding or to turn into the direction that you're sliding. That has always seemed counterintuitive to me, yet I know it works. But I, perhaps like you, the first time I started sliding on ice, I didn't recall what I was told. I reverted back to my natural tendencies to slam on the brake and to turn the opposite direction, again having negative consequences. The same thing happens with conflict. So the first thing we have to do is to learn to counter those natural tendencies. For instance, if we're involved in conflict and the other person is argumentative, they're yelling at us, screaming at us, cursing at us, one of the worst things we can do is to yell and curse back. Instead, we want to talk in a soft voice, talk in a very organized way where our emotions are under check. That will, in essence, catch the other person in conflict off guard, and then you can start focusing on actually the solution to the problem rather than arguing about what the problem really is. The other thing we can do is to learn specific forms of communication that are helpful all the time, but especially when in conflict. Sometimes in conflict, we tend to use absolute language, such as, you never do this, or you always do this. And those absolutes, first of all, generally aren't true. And again, they just add additional flame to where a fire is already burning. Next time, I'll review the Affordable Care Act and specifically what you as an organization need to do to prepare for 2013.